Yeah. Okay. All right, everybody. Welcome back to Horrifically Well Read, Bled, and Said. Today we have a dear friend and incredibly talented author, Cassandra Celia. Welcome to the pod.
I'm so excited to be here.
So, Cass is not only just a talented author, but she is a bookseller herself. She runs a very large, well known bookstore, a branch or store, whatever you want to call it, of a very well known chain of very famous bookstores. So, she knows all about books, and we can talk about all kinds of things today. I can't wait to get into this. But she also has four excellent books that are out right now. And I would say her newest, House of Harrow, is her best, but any of the books are wonderful starting points. But I think that, and we'll talk about it a lot more, the sort of surreal, dreamlike fairy tale, but also horrifically dark and beautiful story that you have written, I think is going to just continue finding a bigger and bigger audience because it deserves it. But before we get into the specifics,
Cass has an amazing haircut.
uh-huh.
And the reason I say that is because I feel like Cass shows up authentically, despite the fact that she doesn't like to be perceived.
Mm-hmm.
But she's one of these people that has been a friend of ours for some time. And just, I love that you embody, like, even when we were at Books and Brews, I take a picture of you and you're like horsing around with, good, that came out as awkward as I hoped it would.
Yeah.
So I find it so fun that like you're just such a really approachable person when you come to like talk to you at the book panels and knowledgeable and just like, you just come off as like when I look at you, I'm like, this is a person that seems to be very comfortable with themselves. And I look for that in other women. So I just wanted to shout that out.
Oh, that's so sweet. Thank you. Like it's hard, honestly, because uh, I feel like I write completely opposite of how I put myself
I
out
totally
there.
agree.
Uh, and I don't know if that's intentional or if I don't know. I don't know what it is, but I really appreciate that. Like truly, that means a lot because I definitely want to be approachable. I guess is the right word. But I want to be somebody that people like want to be around and want to talk to.
Oh, well, you
Oh,
succeed at that for sure.
yeah, absolutely. I just feel like you make everyone feel very comfortable. Like you're always laughing and, but like you can have like deep conversation too.
Yeah,
So
which people are about to find out.
yeah,
They're not ready for it. Like, I'm a yapper anyway, but it'll be interesting to see what you guys can get out of me because I'm so comfortable
yeah.
around you
Yeah.
Well,
anyway.
I feel like the first thing that surprised me was just that, and I know Adam, we always like to go into like, what's your experience with horror? Like, so that's part one. Like, what is your experience with horror? But I do know that you shared the other day that you're like, I've only been on the scene for like 2.5, 3.5 years or so. So,
Yeah,
that's the two-part question. What is your personal experience with horror? Were you always a horror lover, writer, reader? And then now that you're actually publishing under like through horror, walk us through that too.
I think that's why I have such a weird thing with being perceived in the horror community because I do have a very unconventional introduction to horror because I'm not one of those people that have loved horror movies since I was 5 years old. I mean, I read Goosebumps, I read Coraline, Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. I loved like all of those books growing up, but I never considered myself a horror reader. Actually, quite the opposite. Like I think of early movies like Saw and The Ring, and I don't know if can I curse on here?
Oh, yeah.
Those
Fuck
movies
yeah.
scared the shit out of me.
Yes.
I'm a huge baby and I still am. I'm kind of going through my horror movie renaissance right now. And you guys have seen across my social media, I'm like catching up on all these movies that I'd never seen before. But I am so new to the scene. And like you said, it's been about like 2, 3 years now. And I can't really, no, I can name the exact moment when I became a horror fan. And that was when I saw Ari Aster's Midsummer.
Hmm.
Yeah, which we can talk about it more if you want, but like the Elric Undoing was my love letter to Ari Aster and just like a thank you for introducing me to horror because
Oh my God, that's cool.
it was well again, you look at these old movies and they're slashers and they're blood and guts and I don't know why that scared me so much, but for some reason that's what I felt like horror needed to be. And Midsummer was the first time I really watched a movie and was like, "Oh my God, do I actually like horror? Or like, what did that was your guys' podcast name, right? Hold
Yeah.
up.
Yeah. Yep. That was
Hold
the
up.
original of Hold Up. Am I a horror reader? Because I didn't know it.
I actually, that is the exact like response I had. Hold up.
Yeah.
Am I actually a fan of this? Because horror is so versatile and
Yeah.
I never realized that.
It's so marketed and stereotyped, like in terms of like, I don't know, like mass production of what you think it's
Mhm.
supposed to be, but then it's actually like 100 times deeper than that. And my analogy or my thought that came into my head is like almost like when you buy a house and it's like you get it designed by like a custom place and it's like, okay, this is kind of standard. But then you go into like all these other places that, were built years ago and it's like, no, they're very, very different, you know?
Yeah. Well,
I
and
think
like
that's
there's a spot for it, right? There is a place for the blood, the guts,
It's not all
the
the
jump
same
scare.
layout. It's not all the same things. Yeah.
I have to insert though that, no spoilers to Midsummer or the Elric Undoing, but I love that you're like, okay, Ari, I see your dark ending and I will double it for you.
I raise you.
Look, if she's going to do it,
I was
she's going to
like,
put it down.
yeah, that is true. But one thing about Midsummer, when you talk about like what horror is generally considered, the fact that Midsummer is so bright the whole time, right? Like literally, it is taking place at a time when the sun only sets for an hour or two, and obviously, I'm sure that is very purposeful. But I think that when I read your books, especially the last two, when someone asks what's it about, I'm like, I don't know if I can really tell you exactly. I think that one of those things when you say that horror wasn't something, the beats and the structure and all that kind of stuff wasn't something that was like ingrained into you from an early age. I think that has actually really benefited the way that you approach it in your writing because it doesn't follow the same structure. And there's a definite like it's almost uh frightening in a way because it's like this is not following what I think of as a horror story, so I really don't know what's going to happen. And that's a really exciting place to be as a reader.
Yeah.
Genuinely never thought of it that way. But you're right. I was never conditioned on the structure of a normal, quote unquote, right? Normal horror plot line or story arc or anything. A lot of my books come from characters. And I think being human is innately scary and it's a scary experience. So I at least try to approach my books from a character standpoint first and see like, okay, what is their arc? Where do they need to be from point A to point B? Like what is the story I want to tell with them? And then the horrors just kind of naturally happen around them. Even if like we're going back to like the bright colors of Midsummer and like how genuinely happy seeming it is, what horrors happen just naturally because you are human or, in my supernatural stories, well,
Right.
not human, but I don't know. I like to tackle it from the human experience first.
Would you say that like because you are new or that you're not familiar with like the exact like formula that you kind of break all the rules but get away with it?
I would like to say that. I mean, I think a horror reader looks for something new, right? They're eager to find the next thing that's going to scare them. And I don't know if I necessarily am going to be the scariest writer in the world, but I want to be
Well, yeah.
authentic and I want to find new ways to get people engaged, whether that's
Well, that to me is breaking the rules. Like I love, you know, foreign films and, other types of like story that it doesn't follow just the same sort of plot line. So when you're inventing that, I feel like that's really important to push the boundaries and the lines.
I think that
and you know what?
especially your last two books, like instead of like overt scares, I think like they both almost immediately sink you into like all I can envision is the swamp in the never ending story is like this miasma of despair. You know what I mean? And it's like it's a good like that is a compliment, I promise. But
No, I
it's
love
like yeah, it really is. It's like it's vibes and it's dread, it's anticipation, it's like not wanting the thing you think is probably gonna happen to happen. And sometimes it doesn't happen the way that you expect it to, but I love that. So if Midsummer was sort of like that moment where you're like, wait a second, do I like horror or do I love horror? Was that also the moment when you said, maybe this is something I want to, be a creator in that space? Or did that come later?
That's a great
That
question.
actually, yeah, no, that is a great question. That actually came, I think, a little bit later for me. And part of the reason is because my partner has always been in love with horror. And I think part of why uh, I wanted to give him the space to enjoy his hobbies and I could enjoy mine. But I think where we found the middle was when we started going to conventions together, when we started going and finding what's the word for it? Just finding that piece that we both really loved together. So when I was writing originally, when I was publishing professionally, my first book came out, I don't know, what was that? 2020. It feels so long ago now. But I actually marketed that as a fantasy. And actually, this is so wild, but I marketed it as a fantasy romance because that's all I knew. And I had marketed myself as a fantasy romance author because that's what I thought I was. And it wasn't until that point, that movie, right? And then when my partner and I started really getting that love of horror together, that I was like, wait, I'm in the wrong genre. This is what I wrote is not what I think it is.
Yeah.
I had reread it several times and it was hard for me to market because
It's
it
a
wasn't landing.
reincarnation revenge story.
Right. Well, it wasn't that's actually is a great pitch for it. I'm gonna use that. But yeah, like it wasn't landing with readers. And I thought, it's my debut book. Of course it's not gonna land right away. I have to build a backlist. I have to, you know, do put in my dues, all of that. But it wasn't until I really started getting into the world with my partner that I was like, holy crap, maybe it's because I'm not what I think I am. So I think I've always known that I tend to write darker. I'm drawn to that, like I said, human experience that just leans darker. But I didn't start there. It's taken a long time to get here. And even now, even after Harrow was published, I still feel almost impostery because I'm like, whoa, I know this is the space I feel like I need to be in, but do I actually have a seat at the table? That's all.
Well, and we talk a lot about it here. And, we just talked to, not that sequentially it'll come out at the same time, but Lauren from the Twisted Spine that's
Mm-hmm.
opening that bookstore in New York and talking about what she's going to carry in her store. And that's going to be dark academia. That's going to be dark fiction. It's going to be nonfiction. It's going to be so many things that, if you label yourself as dark fiction, if you label yourself as horror, then you're horror. And, anyone that questions that doesn't deserve to be in this space. You know what I mean? It's like you
Yeah.
are who you are. And I read your books and they're fucking horror and they're great horror. And that's exactly where you belong. And I think that, if you feel home in this space, then that's where you're supposed to be. And I think that, again, like, I don't think anyone that reads your books is going to disagree with that. And if they do, then, tell them to come see us.
No, but like, we're not doing that anymore. We're not playing small. We're not shrinking. We're going to be who we are. And there's an audience for what you do.
Yeah, and I think that's why I try to come across as like I want to be the happy, excited person whenever I go to events, like because that's who I am. I mean, it might not be
Mm-hmm.
exactly what I write, but that's how I want to be. I want to show people that I'm actively falling more and more in love with horror every day because this is also very new to me. So I feel like that little kid excitement every time I'm learning something new or every time I read a book or I watch a movie that maybe other people have seen 100 times, but it's the first time I've gotten to experience it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's even more fun as an adult now, understanding more than I probably ever would have, 30 years ago. It's fun. I really love it here and I do feel at home. Um,
Yeah. Good.
and the people are
And it's
just so
probably a
freaking
cool thing that, being at these, I know for me anyway, like from Dark Drafts to Books and Brews that we were just at, it's like meeting the authors and having them sell their stories to you.
Yes.
Like when you go to read this book, there's a personal connection that is hard to describe. Like, there was someone that we talked to at the convention that really was sort of like a wing woman, that she was there because her friend is a big horror fan and she's really not, but she loves to talk to people.
Shout
So
out
she
to
goes,
Chris and Tina.
so she kind of goes up and she talks to the authors and she's like, if a book sounds interesting, I'll buy it. But if an author is interesting, I'll buy their book.
Yeah.
Because if they're interesting, their book's probably interesting. So I
Yep.
think that is a great way to kind of go about it when you're in these spaces, because I think, if you're like Wax Woman Eats Children, it's like, I don't know if that's for me, but they'll remember you and I'm like, but she was awesome. So you know what? I'm gonna give that Wax Hag a try.
No,
they read it and they're like, "What the hell did I get myself into?"
Please,
I'm not gonna
wax
lie.
hag.
That's what our book is signed. It's like beware the wax hag. That's what
Oh
it's designed
my
to.
god!
Yeah.
I didn't know if you were actually writing
So,
that in books or
oh
not.
yeah.
Okay, I didn't see.
So, when I read that from you, it's like I know you, and I'm kind of like, are you okay? On, am I safe too? So, but I love that. So,
So, like you mentioned, like you're watching like movies and stuff like that for the first time, but like, what are some books that you've read? Because I mean, I've had the pleasure to actually go in a bookstore with you, or a few of them, and you've been like, oh, I love this, I love that, and I know because of your current job, um,
Bookseller.
you, yeah, you have to recommend a lot of things, and so
or have knowledge of it
yeah,
at least,
and
right? Yeah.
so let's do it two ways. One, let's talk about what you've read within the horror genre that you're like, okay, that was really fun. I really like this. I recommend this. And then I want to talk about things that are tagged as like literary fiction, but should, for all intents and purposes, be horror that you've read, and what you would recommend for that.
That's really good. Okay, so this sounds like a friend plug, and I promise it only sounds like a friend plug because I am now friends with this person. But I was a fan of this person long before I got the courage to speak with them at AuthorCon last year. But when I was getting into horror and starting to read specifically indie horror, because I knew I wanted to be in the indie space specifically. So when I was looking into different indie horror authors and finding what I liked in the genre so that I can figure out where my place was, I landed on a book called Sleeping Among Wolves by Royal Poff. And
Royals,
have you either of you read that book yet?
I have not read that.
but I've met Royal.
Yes, and Royal's very hyper local to us.
Yes, which I also had no idea until we had actually talked. But I
Yeah,
remember I
and
listened
Royal's
to the
partner
audio.
works at the Michaels that we go to.
Oh my gosh, yeah, oh, that's right. You guys are like within like 5 minutes of one
In
another.
town. Yeah, yep.
We could like meet up at a coffee shop easy.
And you should, because honestly, they're one of the smartest people I've ever met. They're so interesting to talk to. But when I read Sleeping Among Wolves, I was like, holy shit, that's the horror that I want to write. That's the horror I want to continue to
There you
devour and
go.
read. Because it was so, I get is a very character driven writer like myself, and they're very prosy. And the way that they can describe such grotesque things with such beauty is a skill that I wish I could emulate. But I always,
You definitely did with House of Harrow, like 100%. So don't, yeah. But I
I
hear
will
you.
always recommend Royal's books, specifically Sleeping Among Wolves, and Borderline. That one was also brilliant. I'm such a big fan of William F. Gray's books. I feel like we all run in the same circle, so you folks probably know all of these people that I'm going to be talking about. But William also puts a lot of emphasis on mental health horror too, which I've noticed apparently I'm very drawn to: grief horror, mental health horror. And then on that same token, man, Clay McLeod Chapman's Kill Your Darling really destroyed me spiritually, mentally, physically.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I think I read Stay on the Line and Kill Your Darling, like almost back to back. And
Why would you do that to yourself?
I had a rough weekend, I'll tell you.
Out.
So, but yeah, Kill Your Darling. I think we both saw his reading of that
Yes.
opening at StokerCon. And I
Yes.
don't like anyone that wasn't crying or close to it was dead inside in that room for sure.
Yeah, and I love Clay as a human being. Like, he's just a delightful soul. And I really loved Wake Up and Open Your Eyes and Ghost Eaters and all of that. But I hadn't read Kill Your Darling until I listened to him do that reading. And I said, okay, sold. That's all I need. But as far as literary fiction that probably should be categorized as horror, I'm trying to think at the store what I have. Victorian Psycho by Virginia.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. Is technically classified, for us at least, as literary fiction, but definitely should be horror. I mean, The Lamb by Lucy Rose. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
I have that to read. I haven't read that one yet, but
So you like books that really destroy your soul, is what you're telling me? The
Apparently.
Lamb was so painful.
well, the Victorian Psycho,
That was hilarious.
she's
Honestly, yeah.
she is a mixture of both hilarious and she is deeply unwell.
Yeah.
Deeply
I don't know
unwell.
if I've ever laughed while gagging before, but Victorian Psycho did that. So
Did you just giggle so much at the baby scene, Cass?
And you like kick your feet a little, right?
yeah.
And
You're
you're
like,
like, I
this
know I
is
shouldn't love
insane.
this, but I love this so much.
And that's one of those books that got optioned to film. Like
We were like, how are
before
they
the
going to do
movie was
this?
even out, and I'm like, If they do this baby scene, do they have any I really hope they do it well.
Well, okay, so when I read Victorian Psycho, because I am so obsessed now with A24 and the way that they do their horror, so I
Right?
really they have to do it right because that book, if they translate it well, is gonna do so well.
A24, their like feel, their aesthetic, like the way they, I mean, I had talked about it on a different recording, but that book or the movie Opus,
Mhm.
like that's till like the last minute that, um, they just, the twists keep coming.
I don't know. I'm so excited for everything they put out, and I know they're not for everybody, but they really resonate with me, and I will continue to support A24 films as long as I can.
Well, I know you had recommended like you love what's the book that you have multiple copies of?
I love that you know that about me. Is it Invisible Life of Addie LaRue?
Yes, by Addie LaRue. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, V. Schwab is another person that has incredible control of English and just the written
Right?
word.
It's beautiful.
You know, I did not realize that the same person wrote the middle grade horror books too.
Yes, The City of Ghosts.
Yes, they're brilliant. They're so good. And I was
I
like, wait, this is the same person? Like, what the?
You can like soak in
Yeah.
their language. And
uh,
I was saying like, did you read Bury Our Bones on the Midnight Soil?
okay, so I'm halfway through it. So I really don't know exactly what's happening because the three of them haven't yet
Yeah,
together.
it's very long and it's very like deep and complex, but I think that like I was like so many portions. I was like, this is so beautifully written. I want to read this again. It's so beautiful. And then by the end, I was like, I never want to read this again because I mean, you
In
just
the best way.
like, yeah, in the best way. Like, you never want to be a vampire. Like,
Yeah.
she just captures,
She sucks the sexiness out of being a
there's
vampire.
nothing. And it's, yeah, because like, I like a lot of vampire stuff.
Well, I
And
think you think of like living forever and you're like, oh, that's great. And then she's like, this is what it's like to actually live
yeah,
forever.
I almost felt in a way like claustrophobic, somewhat like just like an immense level of dread of just like, not like, again, in the best possible way that she created this atmosphere, you know?
Well, and the cool thing about the way that V.E. Schwab writes, and what I really admire and respect her for, is every book is so different. Like you have The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, which is very like gothic, ethereal, also very like fairy tale esque. And then you have Vicious, right? That Vicious duology, which is
Yes.
this noir, like urban fantasy. Bury Our Bones, which is I like it's in a category all of its own. It's absolutely stunning. And then you have the middle grade series. Like she's so versatile.
Yeah.
Can this woman not do? I admire her so much.
I had recently seen an interview with her and she was saying like, because she had sold so well, she already like started like priming her publisher and went out to be like, yeah, I'm going to write this lesbian vampire book. I'm going to write like, because I always sell well. Right. And like,
Mhm.
just kind of pitching herself. And she said they were like, when she finally was there, they were like, okay, like didn't even, and I think that like that speaks to like, she just delivers, and, but I was going to ask you too, like, do you like T Kingfisher being from like the fantasy aspect?
So I've only ever read the Twisted Ones by Kingfisher, and I loved it. And I have the other series that's based off of Follow the House of Usher. What Moves the Dead, right? Is that the title of
Right.
it?
Yeah. And
I
the
need
third
to
one
read it.
comes
I
out.
haven't.
Yes. I love that series. T. Kingfisher does so much with.
When you say character development, like
Yeah.
I've
Character
only read
development.
one.
Just, the lead character in the Sworn Soldier series, basically in this country, it's almost like this separate gender,
Which
of
is
people that,
awesome.
yes, they were born, categorized as female, but then they become a sworn soldier and they are their own gender. They have their own specific pronouns that are completely different words than for any of the others, and like all of these things. And the way that T. Kingfisher sort of approaches and talks about, a trans like identity through, this book that takes place, 100, years ago, like it's just brilliant in that alone. Then you put in the fact that it's entertaining as hell, scary, gross, all that kind of stuff. It's like 100 pages long. And I'm like,
How
I
do you?
hate you and your talent. So, and the third book comes out, and it's the first one that takes place in the United States and takes place in mines in Appalachia, and it's very good and claustrophobic. So,
Well, and the reason
I'm
why I
not sure
bought
when
them
it comes out.
initially was because their covers are stunning,
Stunning,
stunning. So now I have
beautiful,
to move that up on my list. So I'm currently going through Rachel Harrison's backlist right now.
as
I
you
feel
should.
so sad for that woman because she's getting so many tags and DMs and notifications from
We're
me right
talking to her tomorrow morning, so
now.
I can tell her that Cassandra Celia, she's a known stalker that you need to.
I feel so bad because I'm like tagging her every other day, and everybody keeps telling me I need to read her. I need to read Teen Kingfisher. I need to read Rachel. And I'm finally getting a chance to like really dig into some backlist books that I haven't read in a while or read at all because I'm currently in between projects. So I try not to read when I'm writing.
Mhm.
So yeah. Um,
Well, I wanted to touch on just what you were talking about, that identity, the third gender. Like, that's not just a literary creation. Like,
Right.
and it's one of the specific countries would be for I believe it's pronounced Muxes, Muxes, and it's rooted in the Zapotec indigenous culture. It's basically like in all like considerations, it's considered a full third gender, and it's someone that's basically assigned male at birth who takes on roles and expressions associated with women. And it's more complex than just like gender expression. Mexico. Yeah, it's part of like the communities within Oaxaca. Sorry, I think I wanted to look here on Google. It's Musha, Muxe, Musha. And it's predating like Spanish colonization, like for how long this has been around. And, knowing that like I love science so much, like there's, cardinals, if they're male, they're like deep red, right? And if they're yellow, like, or lighter red, whatever. And it's like, you could find birds where they're half one sex, half the other. Like there's so many books right now of like nature of, and I just saw that like, I want to say it was an alligator that just was like, I'm going to have these virgin births. Like, I'm just going to reproduce like,
Asexually.
but it's like, it's not like in that way, it's kind of like it's a new development within science, right? And I just feel like there's this, culture in our society that's like, what's up with wanting to be called they, them? Why do you have to like other yourself and things like that? And so I appreciate that an author and the inclusivity within this horror space, but these, you know, genders have, and that's just one that I can give an example to. And then within science too, of just like how it's not as simple, just,
It's not a binary.
right. It's very different. We're not saying like, this is not the same thing as, the mush is not the same thing as someone saying I'm non-binary. Like it is historically and culturally like its own thing. So anyway, I just found that to be really fascinating. And so when you can find so many times like things like that in fiction that you'll start reading and you'll be like, I wonder if something like this exists. Like,
Yeah.
and it just, you learn so much.
Well, that sort of ties to the thing that we talk about, and I think horror does it the best of any genre, is creating that empathy, and sort of understanding among readers and stuff. And this is using fiction to sort of guide people to basic truths of the human experience, kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's so important to not have like most things in life are not black and white, it's
Right.
not, it isn't just
Yeah,
polar opposites of things like that. But yeah, I mean, like they are supposed to be caring for aging parents and raising younger siblings and providing
like they
like,
have a specific
yeah, there's a whole like
right?
economic portion and cultural, and uh, resilience and stuff like that. So they play a lot of roles, like, and they're important to the culture, but like we're so myopic and xenophobic a lot as a culture. So, I mean,
Yeah.
to have someone like T. Kingfisher that shows like not exactly that culture, but
Well,
hey, there's a third gender that's
very specific.
revered. I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah, and that the sworn soldier in this, it's sort of like a vague Eastern European country that Alex, the sworn soldier, comes from, but they are sworn soldiers. That's their job. That's what they do. They protect, they defend, they go to war, sometimes wars in other countries just because, kind of thing. So it is very interesting for sure, you know, how fiction points to reality and things like that. So
And there's like, criminalization started all the way back then, and we're trying to criminalize those things now. And like
Yeah.
when we go into like the camp that we try to convert, whether through, religion and, just all over. Like, I know even like, I don't know, it was probably just earlier this year, but we were explaining to our youngest daughter, like, yeah, well, gay rights to marry actually didn't come out. Like it's just so fresh, so new. And it's
it's
just
crazy
hard
to
to
think
believe when
that
it
now.
wasn't. And I remember where it was when it is. So it's just like,
Mhm.
I love that through writing, you can find those things and, whatever story you want to read.
Well, and I think identity, to your guys' point, is so very important in fiction, but horror brings it out, and the horror allows you to explore and to almost do it fearlessly, or explore your own insecurities and your own fears, and you're allowed to get
Yeah.
scared about these things, but still learn about it in a very safe environment.
Yeah. But you can get messy with it, right?
Mhm.
Is like working with the markers that are going to wash off the hands, or like the non-staining toxic Play-Doh, right? You can
Mm.
eat it and you're
But you can do whatever you want with it.
There are so many good recs right now. I mean, old and new, that are doing such a good job with it. I mean, Left Hand of Darkness by Le Guin had that gender
I
neutral
haven't done that.
society.
Okay.
Yeah, please read it. And that's not necessarily horror, that goes into fantasy. And you got Neon Yang's series 2. What was that called? Red Threads of Fortune, that has several non-binary characters who explicitly use they them pronouns. And there's a lot of authors that are doing it really well right now. And I'm still also very, I say new. I keep saying that I'm new to these spaces, but I mean, I am really.
But
To
what did I tell
finding.
you, Cass? What did I tell you about the fork?
Right.
Tell our listeners what's the lesson.
There's several lessons to be learned that I'm trying to get better at.
I told Cass that it doesn't matter how long she's been here or not, because whenever you learn, this is from Josh Mallerman's book, but
Yeah.
whenever you learn the word fork, you were like, okay, I know this now. Like, I can use this word. You never go around like, oh, I shouldn't use the
Don't
word
forget
fork
it.
because someone else learned it before me. And like, you're just as much as a valid author, writer, everything. Like there is no, um, I feel like you're focused on like that you haven't aged like a fine wine yet, but that's okay because we like it as it is right now.
Well, so I'm currently in the process of edits on a new book that I've been working on, that I am soft titling Rabbits. I mean, there's a longer title to it, but it's very, very long. But it also has a non-binary main character.
Great.
And I'm so fresh in this alphabet mafia space, and learning about myself. And again, horror's done a really great job of letting me explore that safely and confidently. But I'm having such a moment with this book because it's, one, very difficult to write because it's so personal, but two, like the mechanics of it and trying to use language that readers are comfortable with and can understand, because it is unfortunately still such a very new concept, even though it's been written and these things have been around for centuries, but it still feels so new to this readership space. So it's interesting just trying to find the language to be able to convey what exactly I want to say about it. And yeah, that was a long redundant thing to say, but I just
No,
wanted to.
do you feel like a lot of research goes into that, of like making sure you're up to date with like the most like insane, just like as an example, what pops in my head is like, you wouldn't say my daughter or my son anymore. So like, you know, how do I say that for someone that's non-binary?
Right. I mean, my child, right, at that point, or
Right,
you use your.
exactly. You just say my child, but I mean things like that where I feel like readers will be able to learn a lot from what you're writing. But that's why I was wondering, like, are you doing any research when you said like, yeah,
Trying. Yeah, I mean, it's hard too, though. I mean, this book in particular it's isolation horror, so it's a lot of internal dialogue, which makes it even more difficult for me because
why?
this person is still trying to understand who they are, so they don't even have the language.
Wow.
It's very, very difficult, and I really don't know why I wrote it, because it's really, it's
Because
you
you're a
know, a
math like
conundrum.
no. because you enjoy self-flagellation.
That's what writers are, it's just
No,
you bleed on the page and
yeah,
see what happens.
I'm sure you'll be so grateful once you've, fully birthed it.
Yeah, right. Once it comes out and it's a full book shaped thing.
Mhm.
It's currently with my editor right now, and I love my editor to pieces. I always go through these phases with these books where like I send it to my editor and they send me a ton of notes back, and then I have to take a step back from the manuscript for like 3-4 months before I even go back
Mm.
into it, because it's so overwhelming to look at your script, and you're so, you've spent however long you've spent with it, and it really does feel like your child at that point, to then have somebody come in and be like, red mark, this needs to go, this needs to completely change. When he had sent me back Harrow for the first time, he read half the book, did all the edits. We were actually moving at a really quick pace on it. And then he read the last half of the book and said, okay, this whole ending needs to change. So you need to rewrite this 20, I don't know what that screaming child was. 15,000 words you're going to need to rewrite.
No
So
big
I had to
deal.
take a break
No big
from
deal
that
at
one.
all.
So Harrow had a really different ending from what it currently is, which is wild. I look at early drafts and I'm like, this book changed a
Mm.
lot.
I would love to see some of that.
It's bad. I mean, rough drafts, first drafts are supposed to be bad, right? Like
Yeah.
that's the whole thing. But the book's
Wait,
changed so much from beginning to end.
okay. So, like, just I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you're saying
Oh,
like you're happy with what your editor suggests. Like you
yeah.
like the revision for that, and you feel like it's a stronger product or overall composition.
Yeah, well, Andy, if you're listening to this, yes, I will use you until you tell me to go away. Andy is so smart and so well read and incredibly talented author himself, but he understands my writing and he has a way that it teaches me. I'm so happy with how it ended up in the end result. I love the way that, yeah, and I love the bleakness of it, right? Like I just like writing a bleak ending. I think it's fun. Fun is the wrong word, probably, right? I enjoyed it. Yeah, no, I adore the whole process, the research part of it, the finding yourself part of it, the hard work that goes into actually physically publishing the thing. The entire journey is very long and very difficult, but
Mm.
well worth it in the end, I think.
Hmm.
So
What's it like when you get like your book in your hand? Then, like from the final
Weird.
thing.
I mean, it's relief, right? Because again, you're holding this child that you have birthed. You're like, this is my thing that I
Mm-hmm.
created with my brain and my own two hands.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really, really cool experience that I really hope you guys get. I mean, I know you guys will be able to share one day. Um,
Thank you.
it never gets old. It doesn't matter how many books you've published, that awe and that like sense of wonder and whimsy and accomplishment.
Mm.
It is so fulfilling. I can't wait to scream with y'all about that.
So I want to ask you specifically some questions about House of Harrow because
Mhm.
I have them. So there is a very like a running line of sort of a very fairy tale type feel to the point of, not to get into any spoilers, but the children that are in this house, how they get there feels very fairy tale, feels
Yeah.
very, Hansel and Gretel and other, kind of stories about the sort of unwanted children. But where Hansel and Gretel and all these stories put the children as the main characters, those are the ones that you follow. This book very specifically and purposely kind of turns that on its head. And instead we follow a rat, a crow, and
The side characters, really.
a wax hag herself. And which came first, like the idea of what's going on in this house, or this idea that was like, I want to kind of, turn a fairy tale on its head, or both.
Yeah, no, what came first, the chicken or the egg, right? That's what
Yeah.
the question is. Okay, so I don't even know what came first really because I just started writing it. I knew I wanted to tell a fairy tale. I wanted to give the same feeling that I felt when I read Coraline for the first time,
Mm.
when I played Resident Evil, specifically Village.
Mhm.
I wanted that, like, again, whimsy and that like really darker undertone that you get from Hansel and Gretel. And actually, you're not the first one to say it has Hansel and Gretel vibes, and I never even thought about that until 4 other people told me that, and I said, "Oh, you're so right." But I've always wanted to write from the perspective of an animal. Always knew I wanted to write from the perspective of an animal. Didn't know what animal that was until my this is going to sound really weird and kind of off base, but my mother, she has always told me since she was since I was young that crows were her spirit animal. Crows were
Cool.
the animal that followed her around everywhere, and not in a bad way, right? She never
Those
thought
are
it was.
amazing.
They
I
are.
love them. They're so
Me
cool.
too.
But she never thought they were omens. She always thought of them as her friends. She actually has like a pack of crow friends at her house that she built a perch for, and she feeds them every morning. And she
Do they
has this
bring her
whole.
presents?
They do, yeah. And
Yeah,
so
see, mm-hmm.
they're
I'm
so
all part of
cool.
this group of like how to attract more crows to your house to make them your friends.
I love them, and they're so smart. But
Very.
we were chatting one day, and I was in the middle of like trying to write this book, and I had no idea what perspective I was going to use. It just was a third party narrator looking in on this house and this woman that really desperately craves love. And then it hit me. I was like, "Holy shit! It's a crow. It's this bird that watches and sees and feels guilty because there's nothing he can do except witness these atrocities that are happening in front of him. And how does he grapple with this guilt, and how does he understand, how does he communicate with her? So Mayhem, my crow, is really what started that story. And
A
I
great name.
thank you. It's because of my mother. She's the reason for it. I guess she's the reason Harrow exists. But because of that, I needed not an antagonist. I wouldn't say Flea, my rat, is an antagonist, but I needed somebody that was his parallel, right? That was somebody that's watching from inside. So I don't know, the juxtaposition between the two of them. I
Mm,
really wanted to play with two different narrators, and a rat just felt natural. But
sure.
Mayhem is what started it, for sure.
Yeah. Mayhem is almost like I kind of look at that character as sort of the very like King Lear, like original view of a court jester, right? The character that can like if Harrow herself is the king or like that character, Mayhem is there and able to comment in ways that no one else can
Yeah.
and judge and like bring some truths and question things that a lot of no one else in the narrative can. And I just found that to be extremely fascinating. And then the rat is very much sort of like you said on the inside, and Mayhem also is very much in danger from Harrow, as we see very explicitly
Very
throughout the book.
early on, too.
Yeah, but it feels like the rat is sort of almost more like the audience's character in the fact that you're scared for the rat in the same way you are for the children and many times. So it isn't, that they sort of are antagonists, but they sort of both occupy the space in very different ways, giving the reader a view of what's happening at different times and in different places.
Yeah, and I think you're right. Harrow, or not Harrow, Mayhem was always in danger of Harrow, but there's a line in there too where he's doing this like internal dramatic monologue, which I love a dramatic monologue,
Mhm.
where he's like, my her only friend is the reason why I can't leave, because I care about this terrible woman so much. And so not only is he witnessing and watching, but he almost feels this obligation. He definitely feels an obligation to be there for her also, which was a really hard thing to play with because in a nutshell, Harrow is stealing and eating children, right? Like that is the story in its whole, really, like if you had to narrow it down,
Narrow it down.
with no spoilers, obviously.
Woman eats children as crow and rat watches.
Yes, essentially. But I wanted Mayhem to feel love and feel like he owed her something.
There's almost a
Mm.
like a toxic relate,
Yeah,
almost
it
domestic abuse sort of relationship between the two. Like that's
certainly
really
is
interesting. Yeah.
like a metaphor, or like yeah, which it's so funny when you're dissecting the book, because all of these themes that I wanted to put into the book you don't think about until afterwards when you're talking about it, and you're like, yeah, that's exactly what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
Nice, nice.
So I'm
Well,
glad
six
it came
stuff.
across that way. And
Yeah.
Well, I will tell you, just like as a quick aside, on the way back from Books and Brews, my mom was watching Annabelle. She's 12, she can't stay overnight. And somehow they got talking about Hansel and Gretel. And my mom's like, you know that fairy tale? And she's like, no. And she's like, your parents never told you. And I was like, son of a bitch, how did we miss that? Sort of thing. And she's like, okay, I'll tell it to you. And so she said she's going through and gets to the point where she's like locked them up and whatever. And Annabelle stops her and goes, don't tell me she's going to harvest their organs. And she said, she was like, what? And I was like, tell me your dad's a horror writer without telling me your dad's a horror writer.
So funny. My goodness.
And the
Yeah,
Hansel and Gretel
so
came up.
she said, "Have you ever heard?" Like she was saying something in reference to Hansel and Gretel, and she was like, and Annabelle's like, "I don't know that story," and she was like, "Really? Your parents never told you?" And we were like, "Oops, like how'd we miss that, right?" So anyway, my mom's like, "Well, I'll tell it to you." So they're out for like a dinner date, and she's going through the whole thing and explaining, and she gets to the point where like she's locked the kids up, and Annabelle stops her and goes, "Don't tell me she's about to harvest their organs."
I
And
love that.
yeah, and I was like, told my mom said she was just laughing like crazy, and I said, "Well, tell me your dad's a horror writer without telling me your dad's a horror writer."
Starting them young, which is smart.
But my mom's like, "I guess you just see a lot more and hear a lot more." But like, I mean, she did kind of harvest their organs. I mean, she's not wrong.
I mean, she's gonna eat them, so I'm sure she'd make kidney
Dang.
pie and whatnot.
See, I think that always disturbed me as a kid. Like, I always loved how they triumphed. It was like my favorite story. But at the same time, the fact that she was just like, how many people were not saved?
Yeah,
I think that happens a lot. All of these stories that we were told as kids, they were Disney-fied, right?
Right.
They were padded around the edges, but they always had this dark
They did.
undertone and like, I mean, not even undertone. Like sometimes it was straightforward.
Yeah,
Like this
no,
does not end happily.
correct.
And for some reason, we crave happy endings, and
I don't.
life
No, I
just
really
isn't
don't.
that way.
I don't know, man. I was like the antithesis of like a Disney kid, where like the opposite, I should say, like is what I meant to say. I just, I was like, these fucking movies, like talk about pattern recognition, or I'm like, every single one of them ends with something or starts with something deeply sad. Like
parents.
someone's always
Generally.
dead. It's like you have to like struggle the whole time through. It's always really fucking traumatic. Like name one that isn't. But I'm supposed to say because there's songs like "This Is Beloved."
That's true. Like generally,
I hate them. I hate, like, seriously.
there's generally no happiness until like the last 30 seconds, and then it's like,
Yeah.
bye.
And I'm like, I'm in anguish the whole time, like watching these things. I don't get it. Like, I don't.
Yeah, we just straight up had a terrible time, and then last
Yeah,
5 minutes of the movie, everything is happily ever after.
yeah.
And it's like, let's buy some merch.
We
Okay, let's get dressed up. Let's buy some merch.
we're also the generation that had never ending story. All
That's the
dogs
one
go
I
to
meant the other
heaven.
day. Never ending story.
All dogs go to heaven. Freaking Tale, where they're just the most depressing fucking things you'll ever watch.
Homeward Bound.
And these were kids' movies, So
Milo and Otis.
it's a very long tradition of traumatizing children with
They
stories.
packaged it as like, this is great for you. This is good, happy, wholesome, and it's
Yeah.
traumatic.
Yeah, and it never was.
I know there's a lot of different versions of, the original kind of story of Hansel and Gretel, but like I'm pretty sure most of the original ones have pretty terrible endings,
Like if we're gonna do terrible, let's do it the whole time, right?
Yeah.
Like if we're gonna do wicked, let's do it the whole time, sort of thing. Like I just think it was like for a lot of these stories, it was just like the sad angst the whole time that
Yeah.
you're sitting in, and then
The cop out.
and at some point it's just like this redeeming moment, and I just
You're not buying it.
no, not at all. Like
No.
I would have rather heard like the original Cinderella.
Well, I've got
I mean,
a book
not the
for
yeah.
you. It's called House of Hair.
I know. I mean, it's like the original Sea Witch.
Yeah.
Like that one does not pull any punches.
Oh, the Little Mermaid. Yeah, she turns
Yeah.
into just like sea foam at the end.
Little Mermaid is a horror story.
Because when she has feet, isn't it like incredibly painful
Yep.
for her to walk at any
Yep.
time and stuff? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
I don't
Yes,
know.
it sounds like I'm gonna have to read you. Like, not that I didn't want to anyway. Like, I just have this really stressed out TBR list that I don't know. I just feel like everyone else is like casually like okay with the fact that they're never gonna read everything. Like, I just struggle, and
I have an existential crisis about not
I
being
really
able to
do.
read everything I want to read in my lifetime.
I'm just haunting a bookstore. It'll be fine.
No,
Well,
like, and so I feel like I need to move certain people up, and I just feel pulled in directions, which I guess is like a good thing to feel like this, but it doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
Well, but you read a little bit of everything, which is almost worse because you're not
Yes.
limited to one genre.
Yes.
You have so many
Yes.
books from so many genres.
So funny that you would say that. So help me out here because Adam's like been no help. I'm going through my bookshelves and I'm like,
No, I just add to the books.
I was like, yeah, I'm probably never going to read this. Like, let me just get, like,
Nope.
it's brand new.
Absolutely not.
I don't need it.
I don't know
It's
that.
one that I see all the time, and I'm probably not going to go through that. Like, I have 4 of
See?
my own stuff.
And in 3 months, you're going to be like, where's that book?
No, hell no. So I have like 4 bookshelves of my own, and like one of them's filled with just everything,
Cases.
bookcase, and like 1.5's already filled with like all the physical books that I have read, not like, you know,
A trophy case.
well,
Yeah.
right. It doesn't count like the audio or the Kindles or whatever.
Yeah.
But some of these that I bought early in my reading journey of like a romance book, like I'm not,
Back when you were a romance and fantasy.
first of all, I hate, yeah. Okay. I was like, that was never me. But there's just ones that I'm sure it's a great book, but like, let me give it to someone else because like, I don't need to have this stress. Like, it looks like it's a fine book, but if I, like, for instance, Adam passed me a Riley Sager book and he's like, you can read it. And I was like, okay, but you didn't like any of the books. So why is this now put on me?
Look, we're not here to talk about to
You know, it's
badmouth
really,
Riley Sagers.
you know, what's really funny about that though is I do purges of my bookshelves regularly. I'm so sorry, Adam, but I do because I just get in a mood, and some days I look at a book and I'm like, at one point I really really wanted to read you, and now I don't have the
Like
time,
it,
or
yeah, like it just doesn't bring me joy anymore. And it'll be like things that are, um, I don't know, like Shatter Me or something that I saw on Book Talk. And I'm
yeah.
like, okay, I'm sure it's great, but
Because
like
early on, you were trying to figure out who you were.
the first time was I wanted to read every single genre that I could and narrow down like what was my thing. And like here's another one like that Western like romance series like The Lassoed and whatever.
Yeah, the
Bottled
like
and
Lila
Sucked and
Stages and
Pebbled and Sucked.
yeah.
Yeah. Look, I don't like I'm sure it's a fine series, but like out of all the things I want to read, like I should just give it to someone.
well, okay, so this is what it makes it really difficult being a bookseller, because I hear every single day 120 million different books that's everybody's favorite book, right? That's always my first
God,
question as a
that's
bookseller
a
too.
burden. That is a fucking burden on you.
It's a first world problem, right?
It is, but it's still a burden.
But I mean, I'm around books every day, all the time, and everybody's telling me, "Oh, this is my favorite book in this genre, this genre, this genre." And so I end up just buying it because for me, I want to read what other people are really passionate and excited about. I
Right.
love talking to people about what their passions are, and if they get this amped up or this emotional over this book, and even if it's in a genre that I really don't read, I'm gonna grab it because I want to know what made you feel that passionate about something.
Mm-hmm.
And then 6 months later and I haven't read it, like, it's such a shame. I need
It's
to
like
be
you
back.
had a boner and then like you lost your boner.
Yeah. It's blue balls for sure.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Cause that's where I feel like I'm at.
Book Blue Balls.
Erectile dysfunction with my book
That's
now.
our next shirt will be Book Blue Balls.
Book blue balls.
But like, it's a real thing. There's no way it isn't. And then people go, oh, I'm a mood reader. I'm like, but like, I'm not attracted to that book anymore. And it's been quite some time.
Just get another bookshelf, right? That's always the cure for everything.
Hide
Damn, that's a great idea though.
them in in a dungeon.
You
Yeah,
know,
because see, then I go back and I'm like, but Rebecca, look at how much money you spent on these. Like, it is
nah.
not an inexpensive hobby. Like, you should just keep them. Like,
Well, I think that's
and then when someone comes over and they're like, oh, I've always wanted to read that, I'm like, then you can gift it to them.
yeah, that's true. We treat our home like a bookstore. That our library.
Also,
Okay, but you did say the other day, Adam, you're like, I pretty much have like a full horror bookstore, and like it is.
My
you
horror
really
section
do.
is better than most stores.
It is hard to go in and like find something you don't have. But I will say your store, Cassandra, is like by and far our favorite store to go into for like
Hey!
of
pretty much anything but the horror section.
It's so well curated.
Yeah.
It's
And we've been in a
fun.
lot.
I enjoy it. Well, because like I think we could, if we get on this conversation, because I can talk about work all day long because I'm really excited and passionate about what I do. It maybe not the parent company in total, but just like the idea of bookselling and what bookselling can do for people. But
Yeah, I want to hear about it.
oh, I love it. Oh, I love curating sections, and like I think the publishing industry is so backwards right now. And I think we're in this really weird space where people and the publishers really don't know what to do because people are
Yeah, I almost
reading
feel
more.
like they're going to have to pay catch up to
Oh,
what
yeah.
buyers are doing. Consumers are driving it and they're not exactly sure yet.
For sure. And it's so interesting too because after COVID, we watched it happen. Like it was so cool being a bookseller, watching it happen in real time. These people either coming and finding reading for the first time or rediscovering that love for reading. So
Mm,
after we reopened our doors, we saw droves and droves of people coming in and devouring anything they could get their hands on, which was really exciting. And then they read it all, right? They read all of their mainstream traditional authors. So they turned to indies. And it was it's been a really cool renaissance for indie authors in every genre and every space right now. And you're seeing these publishers pick up all of these little indies and now they're getting traditionally published. And I think the publishers, they really don't know what to do because these readers have already read these authors, right? So they're leaning into the special editions, the sprayed edges, which really
right.
aren't pulling in what they think or what they thought they were going to. And I
Yeah.
feel like they're a little lost. So it's really cool to see the indie space blow up so much because the publishers are fumbling a little bit.
Well, we were talking about that really like at the beginning, like Adam and I had like recorded an episode of just the two of us of kind of like why this started and whatever. But
Yeah.
because you said that like Hold Up, Am I a Horror Reader really resonated with you, that was the big part of it is like, why didn't I think I was? And a big part of this was the marketing and the layout of the bookstore told me what I was going
Yes.
to be.
Yes. Oh my God. Oh my God. Yes. I want to talk about that. Can we talk about
Yes,
that?
please do. Cause I'm like kind of irritated about it. And I went off on this little tangent at Books and Brews. You didn't get to hear it, but I was like, I wish that they had like some other grid that instead of like an actual word label, it would be like, look, find your colors. Like these are the things that really speak to me
Yes.
the most and have this grid on the back of the book. And if it has like this, and this, like as like the dominant saturation, I'm going to like this and less about what it's actually labeled as.
Yeah. And so the company, my company is trying a whole bunch of new things because we're also, I think, overwhelmed with the amount of readers that are coming into the building and the amount of feedback that we're now getting that the company never used to get. But just there's so many people coming in looking for different things. So they're trying to with different
Can I
layout.
pause you for a quick second? I want to ask this and like in
Yeah.
addendum too. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
When you said about the feedback, my thought was that for years reading was quiet. I don't think it's quiet anymore. I think it's a very social, community driven. And do you think that's why they're getting the feedback now that they weren't before?
Absolutely. I mean, you can attribute that to TikTok, to Instagram, to Facebook, these social media channels that really blew up when people couldn't communicate with one another physically, right? We lost that ability when COVID was happening. We had 2 3 years of isolation, and really the only way we were able to communicate with one another was through technology. And I think that's just amplified, and that's why bookstores, chains, everywhere, we're getting so much feedback from the audience because of that. So absolutely, it has to be.
It just feels like now it's like we want to, even if we're not reading the same book, we're desperate to talk about our love of books. We
Mhm.
want to go on book events. We want to go to book shows. We want, you know what I mean? It's like the library resurgence, like, oh, that's on my Libby list, like all that. Like it just feels like I want to say a renaissance, but I don't think it is. I feel like it, like what you're trying to say is like it's turning into its own thing
Yeah.
organically. It's adjusting and it's not being driven by the same things that it always was through like direct from publishers and direct from marketing and whatever. And not that that's like a bad thing. I don't think it's bad at all. Like what things have been put out and how it's happened, but it's like it's being, there's two people steering this now, right? It's like the social cultural consumers and then also the marketers and publishers
Yeah.
and
Well,
stores.
we're not being spoon fed what the New York Times or like what the bestseller is anymore,
Right.
right? Like
Right.
I remember walking into a bookstore and the first thing I saw was the top 30 bestsellers that whatever company decided or whatever publisher paid for whatever spot. And it's always, the three James Patterson books that came out in the last week. And not no shade or ill will towards any of that because I also think that
Yeah,
that's a
it
needed
holds a
market
space
as
and he
well.
does things within the book world that are actually
Yeah,
really good. But
but I
at the
don't.
same time, it's not for other
Right.
people.
And I just think that the industry is changing so much right now. And I think it's a really exciting place to be, especially
Yes, very,
Well,
very
again,
exciting.
talking to Lauren from Twisted Spine and all of these other bookstores that are so much more highly focused on a specific, whether
Niche.
you want to call it genre or, type of book. The fact is that when you have a bookstore that is only mysteries, that is only romance, you're more likely than not going to have to stock or want to stock a lot of indies, a lot of self-published,
Yeah.
in order to have, things that people coming in aren't able to get at a
Absolutely.
generalized bookstore,
Yeah.
because that's the whole point of going into a romance store, is getting something that you couldn't walk into your
Or Amazon or something, right? Like I want to find something like a little gem and I want you to sell it
Yeah.
to me.
right. Yeah, you're looking also not just for you're looking for people that are experts on whatever that is too, right?
Or at
Well,
least
that's it.
somewhat
That's it.
knowledgeable.
Because anybody can go online and press buy now on a book, right? I tell my new booksellers this all the time. Anybody can do that. I could do it right now from my phone talking to you guys.
Uh-huh.
But that's why people come into bookstores. They want to find an expert. They want to find somebody to share their joy and their passion with. And that's why these really, really cool indie romance, indie horror, indie mystery, like you said, all of those little bookstores are so critical right now because people are so desperate to find that connection. And I don't know, I get really excited and emotional about it because I just think it's such a cool reading is
Yeah.
human connection.
Yeah.
And it's just a really cool place to be in right now,
Yeah.
seeing all that excitement.
Well, that's like our parent company. It's Loud in the Library Studios because we want to break book culture norms and we want to be loud about it, right?
Mhm.
All the things that we're going through. So I shouldn't say our parent company or LLC, whatever. But Cass, I have an inappropriate question, and I'm one of those people that I love to ask the thing that no one else is supposed to ask.
Sure.
Yeah, I really don't have a TMI.
I have no idea what's coming.
Well, my mom has this theory that like every time someone walks into the bookstore, they have to poop.
Oh, I do.
And so I'm wondering, like, how much foot traffic do you see in a bookstore of people going to take a shit?
That is so funny. And you know why that's funny is because yes, it happens. It happens all the time, and there's a term for it, and I can't remember what it
Really?
is. Yeah, hold on. Let me Google it.
Adam's always like, "Oh, these books, they gotta go," and I'm like, "Oh my god!"
No, it's an actual thing. It's called, where is it?
And you'll have
Mariko.
to tell me after you say the name. Like, is this because they're relaxed, they're overstimulated? What's the cause?
So it's a widely. I mean, it's definitely a thing. What are they calling it? The sudden urge to defecate upon entering a bookstore. Mariko Oki phenomenon, I think is how you pronounce it. Anyway, but it came about because a Japanese woman wrote about this experience in a magazine article that was published
Amazing.
in, I think, like I want to say 1980s, 1990s. And then after this publication happened, so many people were like commenting or reaching out and like saying, "Oh my God, like this is a thing. Why does this happen?" So it is a cultural phenomenon. I think it's funny, yeah, because that's the whole thing. And even yesterday, we had a huge fantasy event in our store yesterday, and a customer came in to use the restroom, and then came in and bought pretty much a book from every single author, and the authors were laughing their butts off, and I was like, "What's going on?" They're like, "Well, they just came in to use the restroom, and then they ended up buying all of our books." So it was a very expensive restroom trip for them. For sure, a dick.
The relaxation response. It could be if they've had coffee, at the cafe.
I guess.
It
I
could
mean,
be like maybe like sense of books or just relaxing.
I've heard a couple of different things. I mean, yes, I think there is that relaxation element, right? You're not so tense all the time when you're around the thing that
For
you
me,
love.
I think it's the so many choices that it just triggers
You
some
clench
kind
up.
of
Is that what I'm
stress.
hearing? Like,
It's
what's
some kind of
happening here?
stress happening. I'm like, I
Well,
was in a used bookstore with no bathroom, and I was like, "You're fucked. I'm not buying shit because I gotta go."
Who
some
does
people,
that? That sounds like violence.
It was awful.
Instead of blood on the bookshelves, it's going to be shit on the
Brown.
shelf.
well, and then okay, so I think there's the coffee piece of it too, right? Because coffee is, I think, a big contributor to that. But also, I know I've been told that like it's the smell too, like the smell of books
Yeah.
and ink or the smell of paper could
Yeah.
trigger.
They're gonna be
Now
pretty
look,
upset with the smell in a second.
because we got on this, I had to go on like a quick Google search, Reddit thread. All right, here's some theories. the information dump theory. Your brain gets overwhelmed and basically you got to go dump. Yeah. Followed by knowledge goes in and waste goes out. It's like the law of intellectual conservation or whatever.
I love that theory.
The portal to Narnia, but for your colon, which is clearly my favorite.
Oh my God.
Bookstores are like magical thresholds, right? You cross over and all of a sudden you got a shit.
Which is why
instead of a snowy forest, Adam, you need a toilet.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the one generalized bookstore who's, the same parent company perhaps that you work for, they must have been having some sort of issues in their bathroom, and they took the doors off all of their toilets.
What?
And I was like, this is not the store to do that. Oh,
Okay.
I'm sure those people have seen some things.
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
And then there's a conspiracy theory that publishers know, like they put like in certain scents or whatever in the ink so it like triggers so that shoppers don't linger too long before buying something.
Oh my God.
That's gonna backfire though, because you're more likely to be like, yeah.
I'm the person that has to clean it up.
Right.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah. So
it sucks.
Anyway, this is what everyone wanted to know.
Yeah.
But they wouldn't ask, and you're welcome.
We went to some places. And
Listen,
I enjoy those places.
You're welcome. This is
As long as that place has a door on their toilet stall, I will always go there too.
So. You want to tell her about your recent experience being in a bathroom on a road trip home, and this was awkward.
No, I would rather not. No, I'm kidding. So we are in Indiana in one of those stalls, and so
a truck stop,
and I'm sitting there, and this man is next to me, clearly doing his thing, and he has his phone playing music, like completely like as loud as possible, like, and I'm jamming too, I'm
having a good time.
Are you guys it's like toes tapping in unison? By chance?
Probably. But so, then suddenly his phone rings. And
you said he answers it on speaker.
Yes, as you would in that situation. He not only answers it, but he answers it on speaker. And he's like, "What? I'm taking a shit." The woman comes on and she's like, "Okay." And he's like, "So it's gonna be a while."
No.
So
the stories that you regale me with from the men's bathroom.
The men's bathroom is the fucking Wild West.
Listen,
you know what
I'm trying to tell you is you post up outside of those bookstores
and then
bathrooms, and you'll find the next fodder for your stories.
Or yours
exist. I feel like there's so many story potential, or so much story potential coming from rest areas.
Like, I don't like snakes, but I'm not like super afraid of them. But Nat Cassidy made me quite afraid of them in that scene in Rest Stop. I was like, this is absolute nightmare fuel right now.
This is what we do.
The sound, the way he describes the heaviness of it hitting the ground, like, I don't know why, but like I had a visceral reaction that also may have involved having to go to the bathroom.
I was like, that's what I'm saying. It triggered. Yeah.
So
where can we find you, Cass?
Where can we find you? Where can we buy your books?
Wow, now that we got the poop talk out of the way.
Exactly.
Look,
we talked about the shit. Now we're talking.
Fully evacuated.
We talked about the shit. Now we're talking about the treasures. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So, I'm on all the social media platforms. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, et cetera. And then I have a direct website, Cassandra Celia, or author Cassandra Celia at card.co. And then also I have readers that just show up in my store. So people can do that too, I guess, if they want.
Love that. So hopefully we will, whatever Rabbits is titled when it comes out, we are excited for, even if it's causing you misery. Sometimes, the best art comes from misery, so we can't wait for that.
Yeah, you know what? You can get the title if you want it.
Yeah, you also have a story in a collection that comes out in 2 days? To the general public.
Oh my God! There's blood on this brew comes out.
Yeah, that's so sick looking.
Oh my gosh, I am so excited for y'all to read my story in that. It's called The Godfall Tap Room. It deals with alcoholism and grief, and it's told from the perspective of my dog, my German Shepherd, Big B. I'm in I told you, an animal perspective kick.
Yeah.
All the stories in that are incredible.
How do we forget to talk about your wolf sanctuary?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. You have your own anthology that you're
Yeah,
editing
we
that's coming out next
can.
year, which is exciting.
Like I said, I'm a yapper. I'm sorry.
No, please.
Yeah, so I have an anthology. Submissions closed on July 1st, and I have so many really wonderful stories that I have read and I know I have to read. And that I'm hoping for a February release next year. And proceeds are going to the Lakota Wolf Preserve because wolves are very important to me, and just education about wolves and protection. I don't know, they're very important. So I'm really excited for that anthology to come out. I have some debut authors coming in it, which is so exciting to see their name published for the first time. And
Yes.
some uh, some secrets that I'm not allowed to share yet, but I will.
Love that.
Well, you're the best and we appreciate you. And please continue to support and stock the indie people and keep writing amazing books because, like, I know you just wrote a random short story when you were at the Books and Brews, like at your table. Like, you've got a lot coming out and we want to read it.
Yay! Well, thank you guys so much.
Yeah.
Thank
No,
you.
And we'll
I
have you back
appreciate y'all.
on when the anthology comes out. We'll have you back on when whatever the next book is too. So we'll see you soon.
Yeah, it'll be sooner than you think. I think. Thanks, guys.